Please.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to do a little service to Srimad Bhagavatam and all the wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna. So we'll start with prayers.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva, Jai Subhadra, Jaya Sudarshana, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Ananta De, Prahlada Simha, Jaya Ananta De, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृद्ध की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। द्वारका धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर भक्त प्रेम आनंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So Hare Krishna devotees, today I have been asked to summarize the first half of the 16th chapter of Canto 1. First Canto, 16th chapter. So we will cover verses 1 through 16 today in this session. So I will just read the Sanskrit verse for the verse 1, and then the rest of the verse we will read the English translation due to paucity of time. Suta uvacha tatah parikshit dvijavarya shikshaya mahim maha bhagavataha sasasaha yata hi sutyan abhijata kovidaha samadhishan vipra mahad gunastata. The translation is like this. Sri Suta Goswami said, O learned Brahmanas, Maharaja Parīkṣit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the twice born Brahmanas. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadanti Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vranda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat. So here this chapter starts with the after the all the Pandavas, they actually went back to Godhead. See, the earlier chapter was called the Pandavas retired timely. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, after ruling over the world perfectly, and after knowing that Lord Sri Krishna had wound up his pastimes in this material world, and he has gone back to Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world, then everybody immediately left one after the other, and then the Dhritarashtra, everybody went. Then subsequently, this section talks about the next generation of the Pandavas. So how Parīkṣit actually ruled the kingdom and what all happened subsequently is something that we will be touching upon here. And this particular topic is entitled How Parīkṣit Received the Age of Kali. So this is a time when there's a transition from the previous Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, to the Kali Yuga. So naturally, when there is a transition, there is supposed to be the elements relating to that new period to start over. So we will be seeing those sections here. Just like when there is a shift from summer to winter or winter to summer, you certainly see the changes which are happening around us. So like this, after the Lord left, then Kali Yuga started. And Parīkṣit was in that transition period, and then how he was handling the situation is something which we will see in this whole chapter. We will cover a portion of some of those dealings of Parīkṣit Maharaj here. So here it is mentioned that Parīkṣit Maharaj ruled over the world as a great devotee and under the instructions of the best of the twice born Brahmanas. And he had amazing qualities, so it is mentioned that as soon in those days when a child is born, they make the horoscope. Even today in many families we do make the horoscope, but it is also very clearly predicted, because there were great astrologers who are perfect Brahmanas, who could actually study the chart of the child and then actually talk about what is his objective in life, what is it that he or she is born for. and how is it that their life will be, like that. So Parīkṣit Maharaj's horoscope was read, and it was said that he will be a great devotee, and he will be a very powerful king, and how he will have all the wonderful qualities. And in this, Prabhupada is talking, the best of qualities is to actually be Krishna conscious. So there's a logic to this, even if you are looking at it from a materialistic perspective. And Prabhupada speaks about it in a way that he's saying, if you became a proper devotee, then all the good qualities automatically manifest in you. So this is a very simple logic, right? Sometimes, today we people talk about, I have to develop this habit, sir. I have to develop that habit, sir. Then they immediately have a nice, what do you call, then immediately they have to attend a set of seminars on different aspects of that particular one thing, and then they go deep and take many years to develop that particular skill, that quality or whatever you can say. But then there are so many other things which are actually lacking in that person. So for example, someone will say, no, I want to be a protector of the animals. Okay, very nice. So this fellow will be very having so much of concern for all the animals. He will make big articles. He will be there in all the forefront activism for animals. But then if you see at the home, he will be actually troubling his wife. Like, he may be a shamanist, he may be troubling his wife, or he may be employing children in his whatever this kind of industry, or like this, or he may be smoking. There could be so many different other aspects where the person is completely in the wrong side of it. Therefore, now if you have to develop that, then you have to go for one more big kind of a conditioning, so that you develop those qualities. Like this, there are so many anarthas in all of us, and therefore it is always very difficult to address each of them, because Kali Yuga, we know the life is very short, it is very thing. So the best way is to take up the highest one, which will automatically, as a byproduct, remove all the other anarthas in us. So this is something which we are all actually practicing devotees will understand this, and they would have perfectly experienced this in many aspects. That there may be a lot of negatives in us, but instead of focusing on the negatives, if you are able to focus on developing Krishna consciousness, suddenly after a few months you see this quality I had very strong. Now I see that negative. I'm talking about some anarthas. Now I feel that is not really a big botheration for me. Now that is something which is gone. So according to our level of focus on Krishna consciousness, you will find the level of removal of the anarthas. So this process itself is for that. Like, you take up Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Vandanam, Pada Sevanam, like that. As we keep doing, this will clean the heart of all the anarthas. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually talking, right? He's saying Chetu Darpana Marjanam. So the dirt in the heart will all go away as we take up the soap called Hare Krishna, right? This will completely clean our consciousness very nicely. So that's been talked. So that the Parīkṣit Maharaj is a perfect devotee, and therefore he had all the great qualities to rule the country. And then here it is also talked about he was taking advice from the twice born. That means those who are initiated as a Brahmana. That means who have been given a second birth, not this material bodily birth, but who has also been given the spiritual initiation by the spiritual master as a Brahmana. So once that is there, then naturally, while you are yourself a nice devotee, and on top of it, you are taking the counsel of supposed to be higher devotees. I mean, when we say, I'm saying supposed to be means these the twice born Brahmana. So in fact, so they are supposed to be, the Brahmanas are supposed to be the leaders, leading all the other classes of men in the spiritual journey. And therefore they were giving consultancy, and here it is mentioned they never did anything for money, like, so they may be the chief advisor, but he never took even 1 rupee from the government. So this is how they get respect here. And Prabhupada contradicts that to what is happening in today's world. Nobody is really qualified there, only based on this material education. Someone is there, and that person's quality is so poor, and he's only chasing after money, and corruption, and so many things keep happening, and there is no proper advice. But here Parīkṣit Maharaj had the facility of taking counsel free from very learned Brahmanas, very qualified persons, and they know what they were doing. They were not fools. because they were above all this entanglement of material bondage. So they knew perfectly well what should be the things that we should give to the people, and they advised Parīkṣit Maharaj accordingly. And Parīkṣit Maharaj did not, okay, I consulted you just for the sake of it, but I will do as by my whims and fancies. No, he was a perfect devotee, a perfect king also, and he applied those principles and governed the country very well. So that was the first one. Then next, King Parikshit married the daughter of King Uttara and begot 4 sons headed by Maharaja Janamejaya. So this king of Uttara's daughter is one Parikshit married, and this Uttara is basically his maternal uncle. So in those days, Prabhupada writes, there is the system of marrying the cousins from the maternal uncle side. Like, you know, that means the mother's brother's daughter. For example, if here Parikshit is a man, and then he marries the daughter of the his uncle. So this is there even today. We can see in some families that system is there. But earlier that was a very common practice. We call in English cousin sister, but it is not actually a sister in this case. What is important is you have to look at the gotra, and on the same male lineage. That is the most important thing. And as long as the gotra is different, they are not sisters or brothers. They are actually uh, uh, eligible for marriage. Only if you are from the same gotra, then you are actually cousins. Like, the English word is slightly different in the sense. Cousin means you think, okay, immediately brothers, step sisters, that way. But when you are not of the same gotra, you are not technically a brother or sister. That is there. Therefore, they are allowed to marry, and therefore he married Uttara, and then they had some 4 wonderful children, all perfect devotees. And here Prabhupada just gives a little bit of a commentary on Janamejaya. So Janamejaya is, I think, here that's Prabhupada also says, Parikshit's wife, Uttara's daughter, his name is Iravati. And there is different commentaries. Prabhupada writes that, this Janamejaya, could someone say that he is the son of Iravati, that means Uttara's grandson, while some other people, another wife, maybe her name, her son, like that they are saying, but whichever it is, he is son of Parikshit Maharaj. And this Janamejaya is the what you call the first son, and therefore he was the natural designated ruler, and he ruled in an amazing way also after Parikshit Maharaj. And maybe that will be later possibly, but some small insight is given about Janamejaya. This Janamejaya, because his father was, we all know, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by the Brahmana's son, and therefore he had to be bitten by the serpent, and he has to leave his body. Then therefore Janamejaya was very much affected by this, the death, and that he was killed by this Sarpa. What's his name? I forget. Daksha. So Takshaka, his name is Takshaka. Therefore, he performed a yajna where he said all the sarpas, all the what do you call snakes, different varieties of snakes, there are also different categories, right? Many gotras are there even in the snakes. So different varieties of snake. There is, we call like, the cobra variety. Then there is this python variety. Then there is this so many different types of varieties like this. So he performed a yajna where he wanted to sacrifice all these different varieties of snake and avenge his father's death, which included Mr. Takshaka. That he should also come and fall into that fire. He performed such a very powerful yajna, which was then everybody, including the demigod, they were all saying, no, this should not be done. But so he was going on with that anger, that that avenging that thing, and it was happening. And then everybody, all the influential demigods, including Vyasadeva was there. Then they all requested, we understand your grief, but every other species needs to be there. There's a purpose behind everything, and your father also had a purpose why he had to be killed by this snake. So you should not avenge like that. He only did his duty, kind of a thing. And then he got pacified, and he actually stopped that yajna. And then Vyasadev's advice, he stopped that yajna. But even though his yajna was not fulfilled, he perfectly took care of all the guests. These are all things which you should learn. Like while he had anger for a particular thing, but then he was still in the same sense. It's not that he was doing things out of rage or anything like that. While there is that personal thing that um, my father's death needs to be avenged, but he was not out of his senses. He followed the Brahmanas, he followed everybody's instructions. So he perfectly offered very nice offerings to all the Brahmanas who attended. And at that point in time, he requested also that I please grant me the boon that I am able to see my father. So Vyasadeva was so merciful. He made that desire fulfilled. He made him stop that yajna, but he also understood what is the grief behind this man's problem. So that means it's not like you address everything properly. It is not like compromise. So he said, okay, you stop this. But then his desire, therefore, was at least to take darshan of his father. So his father actually came over there and he worshipped his father and Vyasadeva there. And after that, that continued. So that's something which Prabhupada writes. Then the third verse. Maharaj Parīkṣit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as a spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants, and at these sacrifices, even the common man could see demigods. So this is history. So we should understand. Sometimes we say, oh, all this is some kind of a concocted thing. We also say, no, show me all this. We are talking about so many of these gods and demigods. I want to see them in front. But here, these are all practically possible. Only thing is, in Kali Yuga, none of us are qualified to invite these demigods over here and then have a conversation with us. That is our misfortune, not that is not possible, right? That is like that. So the fact is, when he performed all this yajna, he is most influential, right? For example, if Biden is performing something, if he's so influential, then the demigods will come over here. I mean, why I mentioned Biden's name is, at least we all here think, US is the biggest country and they can control a lot of these things, but that doesn't seem to be true these days. There's so much people where every country is not ready to subordinate to the highest so-called power in this world. But then that time, Parīkṣit Maharaj had that power, so the living entities from the higher planetary system, whom we call the demigods, they all also came down and participated. Even now, if you see in Tirupati and all, they perform the yearly festival, right? Brahmotsava. Now, in the Brahmotsava time, if you see in the beginning, they will hoist that flag, and Lord Brahma is supposed to be coming at that point in time. And then all the demigods come. And then once they come, the 9 days are that festival happens. And during that time, all these demigods are present. And in fact, if you see, there will be one rath in every daily, there will be a procession of the Lord. You will see one rath will be going ahead, which will be vacant. There will be nobody sitting there. And the point there is Lord Brahma is sitting in that rath. That we can't see him, but he's there. So Brahma is going there, and then it is under the auspicious of Brahma that this entire thing is happening. That means he is the presiding person who is doing it, not that the president of the temple is doing it here. Like that is there. So when Balaji's Brahmotsava is happening, it is like that. So similarly, Parīkṣit Maharaj was so powerful, all the demigods came. And the Prabhupada writes, these demigods, even now they may come, but we are not able to see. That is the point. The thing is, just like when the Lord is there, we cannot see the Lord. But by the mercy of the Lord, we can see him. Similarly, the demigods also have such powers. If they have the mercy on us, they can give us darshan, but otherwise not. So, but because of Parīkṣit Maharaj's influence, they were actually visible for every common man to see. So they could see, oh, Mr. Indra has come, Mr. Chandra has come. They could see all of this. And then, the big celebrities, right? We all see, oh, the prime minister is there or the superstar is there. That is that people all go running and see them. So like that, here when these great personalities come walking, like now, just imagine the moon and the sun walking there, how it will be to take darshan of these amazing personalities. So they were all actually visually seeing these personalities come over there. And such is the power of Parīkṣit Maharaj. That is what is being talked about, like, the kind of yajnas they do, the kind of opulence that was there, and who are the invitee list. Today we talk about, oh, Ambani's family, there's this marriage, and, the so-and-so of India, so-and-so from the United States came and visited. There's big articles, big TV shows. But here, we don't talk about anybody smaller here. We talk about people even from higher planetary system coming, what to talk about people who are other influential people from this planet. They were also there. Such is the power of Parīkṣit Maharaj. And it is also mentioned he also took initiation. That is very important, from Kripacharya, a perfect devotee who has had darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose grandfathers were like the best of the kings. They were already emperors. They were already the ruler of the world. Such high lineage, such high perfection in his own personal life. But he also surrendered to the Supreme Lord's instruction that you should have an initiation from a realized soul. So he took up Kripacharya as his spiritual master. The next verse. Once when Maharaja Parīkṣit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra, disguised as a king and hurting the leg of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. So Prabhupada here writes about, Parīkṣit Maharaj is already the emperor. That means his grandfathers were already the emperors. It is not like Parīkṣit Maharaj had to, therefore, conquer anything here. Already everything is conquered. Their family is the owner of, the so-called owner of the material world. But still, they still have to re-establish their position. So they perform, even in spite of being the ruler, they perform the Ashwamedha Yajnas and all that. Okay, now you are already my subordinate, but if any of you have any doubt, I have changed your mind, my horse will come there. If you want to take a review your decision to surrender to us, you can review now. And if you have the guts, like you catch hold of my horse, and then we will have a challenge once again. That kind of thing. It's not like they are not afraid. They are not afraid. Oh, now that we already are the owners, so I will sit tight and not worry about this. They are there. Wherever there is problem, I don't care. I will go and do the duty of a Kshatriya. So Prabhupada writes about it here. He says they have nothing to conquer, but they have to look at where are the problems in terms of the spiritual progress of people. That's very important. Therefore, a king's duty is to see if everything is happening as per the proper Vedic injunctions given. We already saw, right, the instructions of the Brahmanas. So he can give the instructions and he can think, but is it being followed by all the other other rulers who are subordinate to him, but they are ruling independently, right? And they are paying taxes to Parīkṣit Maharaj. But are they doing their job properly? It is his job to see. Okay, they are subordinate to me, but at the same time, I cannot allow them to do whatever nonsense they want to do under their empire. So that is another important thing. Therefore, Parīkṣit Maharaj had to go and supervise how things are happening, and where there is not happening properly, he will have to raise it up and not diplomatically, oh no, it's okay, if that fellow is slightly powerful, no compromise. Go and pick up this discussion that, I want you to do this way. And if he refuses, then get into settle it once and for all. And that settlement can happen ultimately through the show of power, right? Finally, that fellow has to come down and surrender to him. And that happens only through the power. Therefore, Parīkṣit Maharaj was doing this. While on his way, he sees this one person, is a very lower person, very low class person, but he was dressed like a king. So this cheating process has already started, like that impersonation has started, and he was fooling people that, like as though he is the king. These kind of things were happening, and most importantly, he was actually hurting the cows. And Prabhupada is actually talking about cow protection here. Cow is an animal. I don't know even if we can, technically call that way. Humans are also animals, right? At least in one sense, in English, or the modern society is trying to think of humans also as animals. Maybe in terms of just a classification of how you look at things. In one sense, like they say, humans are social animals. They are saying. But that way you can call us also animals. I'm saying like that. But cows, even though you call them as animal, are not in one sense really to be considered an animal as a common animal is. A cow is created in a far, like when man was to be there, then the cow is an essential element along with man. That is how it is. Like if the cow is there, then the man can live. If cow is not there, then man. So it is a complete. The creation was made in such a way that for sustenance of man, here is another, like man. If you consider, the Lord is saying, right, is a machine, like yantra rudani maya. So he's saying, right, that means this body is actually a machine. Now, for this machine to sustain, another type of machine called a cow was also produced by the Lord. And as long as that machine is there, then this machine, human form machine, can work properly. So this is something which is very beautifully given, and we are trying to destroy that other machine called the cow. I am talking about the body here, not the spirit soul. And then the other machine called the human body cannot sustain. This is a fact. So Prabhupada calls this the miracle. There is a miracle in milk. So that cow can give everything that a man wants. That is also something which I've read. Whatever the cow gives, if we are able to sustain on that, then we can actually live. Which means including how we can grow grains. Just by the cow dung, the fertilization of the land will happen. So it's not like, can the cow give therefore grains for us? Yes, the cow will give us grain. That means whatever cows, some byproduct is there. If you are able to use it in a proper way, you can get the grains also. So no need for fertilizers. You can get wonderful grains, and that grain can nourish us for whatever we don't get from the milk. Like this, so many things. Even I mentioned even earlier, even if some children are very restless, very like slightly lunatical and all that, if the children goes to a goshala and serve the cows there, then their lunatism, they become little calm, they become this one. So these things are also there. So even our emotions, we can actually be balanced when we are in association of cows. There are so many things like this. So Prabhupada is talking about the importance of cow and the Brahmanical culture. And Krishna, we all know that, right? Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. So both the cows and the Brahmana, Krishna's main purpose is that these two should be protected. Where there is no protection for cows, where there is no protection for Brahmana, then Krishna is not there. And then we are challenging Krishna that, where we are not carrying these for these two, then we are for sure attracting doom, because Krishna is against us very clearly. So that will be verse number 5. Saunaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaja Parīkṣit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of the Shudras, having dressed as a king and having struck a cow with his leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. So here, you understand, right? Suddenly Saunaka Rishi is coming in. Where is Saunaka Rishi? So the point is, Bhagavatam is actually something which originally spoken to Parīkṣit Maharaj. And at that point in time, when this Bhagavatam was being narrated, there is this Muni, Suta Goswami, who was listening there, and he is later narrating it in another place, and in that place, the person who's head of the listeners group, his name is Saunaka Rishi. So basically, this entire narration is happening as two portions. Some portions where Parīkṣit Maharaj is listening from Sukadeva Goswami, and whatever was heard by Sukadeva, by Suta Goswami, when he is narrating it, Savanaka Rishi and the other rishis are listening. And so this entire narration is happening either as being heard from that first party or from the second party. So now this section is, this Savanaka Rishi is asking, oh, so therefore what happened? Why did he only punish him? Did he not actually, he should have actually killed him? Is it not true when he's hurting a cow? Why did he simply only punish him? So they are inquisitive. How come that, cow is such an important animal, and if it was being mistreated, how is it that death penalty was not given? But they are also cautioning, but at the same time, please talk to us about this if there is Krishna consciousness in this. Otherwise, I don't want prajalpa. Like, we are also saying, oh, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Then we spend 5 hours in that discussion. Fine, it may be right, wrong, that is okay. But as long as it is not connected to Krishna, I don't care for it. That is the point that these wonderful personalities are indicating. Like that, we can also see in our life how much of our time or whatever we do are related to the Lord. If they are not, how much of importance we give to that. It may be right or wrong for someone else, but then do we beyond a point waste our time? That is something which we need to introspect on. Of course, all of us have our responsibilities as a citizen, as a family, whatever, as a member of a family or a member of our, business or profession. So everything is there, but if you are able to dovetail everything in Krishna consciousness, that is another aspect of it. Therefore, should I then bother about my office work? Should I bother about my business? Should I care for my family? No. So if you are able to dovetail everything in Krishna's service, then everything becomes connected to Krishna. So that's the knack of living in this material world. When we are forced to not completely surrender to the Lord in the sense of completely engaging 24/7 in direct devotional service, like a pujari service, or for example 24/7 book distribution, or 24/7 temple management. Not all of us are blessed with such circumstances. That's okay. But as long as we are connected with, even with our whatever other activities that we are doing, if we are able to dovetail that in Krishna service, then that also becomes Krishna consciousness, and spending time in that is actually also related to Krishna in that sense. So this we need to learn under the guidance, so it's a high level thing which I'm talking, but all of us need to look for support from seniors who are experienced in Krishna consciousness, how they have been dealing, what suggestions they can give. Like we also, not only Parīkṣit Maharaj takes the counsel of a twice born Dvija, but we also can take this consultancy from the nice, amazing Vaishnavas that we have in our community. We are blessed to have such wonderful senior Vaishnavas who are able to guide us very nicely. Of course, they also don't take money. So if you go to a counselor and asks for money, then you may have to shell thousands and thousands of rupees. We know so many counseling sessions, they take hundreds and thousands of rupees for this. But here, devotees are more than willing to give us protection. So that is something which we can leverage upon. Then now it goes into a little bit of a philosophy from this particular verse on the Saunaka Rishi's question. So the next verse is, the devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable time? So this is continuation of what we discussed. So Prabhupada is saying the duration of our human life in this Kali Yuga is so small, so short, right? Maximum 60-70 years. It's like, we can see this, so many of people are just leaving, suddenly we see people leaving. We don't even know how come, so we are so young, we think, but then, I'm already 50. Well, we don't know how long we will remain. So these things, we can't take it for granted. Oh, life is there. We will see, I'm only 20 now. Therefore, let me study hard. And then 25. Yes, you study hard. Nobody's saying you should not study hard. But don't ignore the most important purpose of our human life. Therefore, simultaneously do both. That is the most important thing. If so, okay, study now. I have studied. Now I know I need to work hard and make money, or whatever, name and fame, and establish myself with my knowledge. Everything is very nice and accepted. At the same time, do not ignore devotional life. Do not compromise on devotional life. Just take this as one of the most important aspect of our life, and that's very practically possible. All we need to do is there are so many other nonsense that are also part of our life. If we can cut down on that and then focus on your studies or work or whatever, and then remove all the other nonsense from our life, we get so much time for our devotional service. And then dovetailing even the studies and work and everything, that requires that ability to transition. Once we get into that, then you are fully Krishna conscious. So that this is something which we can easily do. So Prabhupada is talking about this. um, uh, and he is also talking about the Lord's lotus feet. So Prabhupada talks about this Goloka Vrindavana. Actually, in the spiritual world, is like a lotus. And when the Lord descends here, also, like all the paraphernalia also come over here, and whenever, even when he's here, he's actually invisibly, that lotus is there, like that. We can't. Therefore, the Lord's feet is also referred to as lotus feet. There are other reasons why sometimes the lotus eyes, they say lotus feet, like this they mention. There are other reasons also why we call a lotus, but here Prabhupada is talking because of that Goloka Vrindavana being in that lotus thing, and therefore the Lord who's standing on that lotus also has a lotus feet, like that. Prabhupada is actually giving his comment. Okay, the next one, seventh verse. What is time? 7:33. We have another half an hour. Okay. So Prabhupada is saying, a living being is eternal by constitution. He is, so to speak, in the whirlpool of birth and death due to his contact with material energy. Freed from such material energy, a living entity is liberated and is eligible to return home back to Godhead. Those who want to live forever without changing their material body should not waste valuable time with topics other than those relating to Lord Krishna and the devotees. So that's the summary of this particular verse, which we have been talking in my commentary on the previous verse and this one, and how we can actually utilize our time as much as possible, dovetail everything in the service of Krishna. And because this life is very short, we don't know. Even if we live our full life, maybe 70 years, and even if we live beyond that, it is basically full of bodily problems. We can't focus on devotional service. Even then, you will be mostly sleeping, or lot of pain all over the body. So there will be so many other social disturbances. There may be lack of money. So many things will be there at that age to grapple with. We may say at young age there are so many difficulties to grapple with. Sure, even when we become old, there is even more problems to grapple with. Therefore, we should not wait. One is a short period of life. Within that, also, we don't know how short it is going to be. Or worst case, even if I am live long according to our standards, maybe 70. And beyond that, there's no life only, literally. So, okay, up to that 70, what can I do? Of course, I'm not trying to, there may be some who are above 70 also, even here, I don't know. But not to discourage them in any form and sense, but just to give importance to do early in life. That's the something which I'm trying to say. But if I'm blessed to be after 70 also, or 70 is just a number, and I'm just saying it could be some for them, even 50, 60 may be a very difficult bodily situation. Some may be after 80, they may, but that's okay. I'm trying to don't take 70 or 80 as a hard thing when I'm saying. But point is, life is always very difficult. And particularly as we age, there is always this tendency to have challenges. Therefore, we should not wait, and we don't know. Therefore, now is the time, earlier the better. That's the point, not about the age in one sense. Don't get me wrong. My apologies also if I'm hurting someone's sentiments. Okay, next one is O Suta Goswami, there are those amongst men who desire freedom from death and get eternal life. They escape the slaughtering process by calling the controller of death Yamaraja. So here there is one kind of strategy given that, if you want to uh, spend more time in devotional service, then you invite Yamaraja to the party. So exactly that is what Prabhupada is saying. He says, you invite Yamaraja to all the kirtanas. So when Yamaraja is there, there is no, like, kirtana means sankirtana, whatever. So it include chanting Hare Krishna together as kirtana, but even doing devotional service in our temple or whatever. Right now we are doing kirtana, all of us together, like 14 of you here, including me. We are all doing kirtana. So that means we invite Yamaraj to the uh, spiritual program, kind of a thing he is mentioning. And in fact, therefore he's saying when Yamaraj is there, there cannot be death. Means when he is personally present, his servants will not be unnecessarily troubling those associated with him. Therefore, you invite him, because Yamaraj is such a great devotee. He is actually very happy to come and participate in all Hare Krishna programs. That Prabhupada is writing this, let me write that. So he says, thus the great sages headed by Saunaka and others invited Yamaraja to attend the sacrifice performed at Naimisharanya. This was good for those who did not want to die. So that was there. And going forward, he will even talk about but still we will die, right? We are having a material body. So we will see that in the next verse. As long as Yamaraja, who causes everyone's death, is present here, no one shall meet his death. The great sages have invited the controller of death, Yamaraja, who is the representative of the Lord. Living beings who are under his grip should take advantage by hearing the deathless nectar in the form of this narration of the transcendental pastime of the Lord. So one is this, what do you call, the destruction of this physical body. Yes, that is one way we can seek the protection of Yamaraja and say, please protect us from death for some time, whatever time. But ultimately, none of us can ask for immortality. That we saw with Hiranyakashipu. He went and asked Brahmaji, please give me this boon. Brahmaji said, Baba, I myself cannot escape death. What can I give you? What I don't have, how I can give you? So that is there. So none of us can escape death. But the entire concept of Krishna consciousness is to escape death, right? So this looks like contradictory. Therefore, we need to understand, while death will happen to the body sometime or the other, the most important thing is how I come to a stage of retaining my permanent existence, not again and again taking one more body and coming to the point of death, again birth, again death, in between disease, old age, all that is added to that. So how do I remain out of this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease? That is something which we should actually aspire for. The human form of life is meant for that sacrifice. That is the most important thing. And therefore, and Yamaraj is a great devotee also. So therefore, with the Yamaraj's blessing, we can attain that platform also of not even taking one more body, and therefore no more attracting Yamaraja's men to pull me out of that body. We don't. That blessing of Yamaraj will help us to get out of this entire cycle of, particularly death. It means no more body for us. So that is also possible. Therefore, Yamaraj, both materially and most importantly spiritually, will be very favorable if we are able to seek his blessings, like that it is mentioned. Then lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities that are for naught. So Prabhupada talks here, most of the time in the day we are worried about earning money, running, working so hard, 24/7, working hard to make money. But maybe not 24/7, because he also talks about the night time, where we are worked so hard that we are so tired that we sleep like I don't know, no, absolutely unconscious, right? So many things may happen around us, we may not even know. So those kind of things are there. So much what do you call, sleep in tiredness, because of the so much of labor we have done for nothing. And Prabhupada says that nothing is actually, all of this that we try to get is actually very, very impermanent. Therefore, it is actually nothing, no permanent benefit of whatever labor that we are doing. Therefore, this logging like an ass is something which we should avoid. And in the night, naturally, either you are sleeping or all of this work we are doing at making money. Prabhupada is very raw and he says, like, no, that is for the sex life, right? So like, even if you have a house, that is also in a big house to live in is nice, but a palatial house is more seen as for the sex life, in the sense it is for enjoying the act of sex plus also all the creation out of sex. It's like, okay, I have 4 children, I have big rooms for each one of them. That working hard for that is also part of the sex life, right? The need to satisfy the actions which is coming out of that sex life, that way. So he's saying this is going on, but the point is Prabhupada is saying that is the program of materialistic civilized life for the less intelligent. Therefore, they are designated herein as lazy, unfortunate, and short-lived. So that is the description, and how most of the human beings are basically spending their life. But the idea is we should spend our life as much as possible in trying to be Krishna conscious. First understanding Krishna consciousness, then trying to live that life like that. 10th verse. Suta Goswami said, while Maharaja Parīkṣit was residing in the capital of Kuru Empire, the symptoms of the age of Kali began to infiltrate within the jurisdictions of a state. When he learnt about this, he did not think the matter very palatable. That did, however, give him a chance to fight. He took up his bow and arrows and prepared himself for military activities. So again, continuation of earlier what I was saying, how these kings, even though they are emperors, they have to still establish their supremacy, not just for gratification. Oh, now I am the ruler of this other kingdom, and therefore, I have all the power related to that, being the king of that portion also. It's not just for that sake that a ruler will fight. He says it is to establish the principles of dharma, a ruler will fight. So, and he's saying natural for here it is right. When he learnt about this, he did not think the matter is very palatable. That did, however, give him a chance to fight. See, that point is, yeah, Kshatriya by nature, like, has this tendency to control, right? That is natural. And therefore, here it's an opportunity to downtail your controlling propensity for the service of the Lord. So here, as I said, right, how we can use our gunas, everything downtrailing, we talked about it. Here is an example. A king or a Kshatriya by nature has got this propensity to control. But here he is dovetailing to control it for the purpose of establishing the dharma of the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, that guna that we have, that means that the controlling ability or the rajoguna can still be used in the service of the Lord. So that tendency, oh, now I want to fight. He has that tendency to fight, but already is the king. Where is the need to fight? But that guna is there still, that intensity to fight. And therefore says, okay, you fight for Krishna. That means go and see if there is any discrepancy in the way in which the world is governed. If it is not governed as per the scriptures, then go and fight with that guy. That is being mentioned. Because even if you see the kings, their nature to fight will be there. Therefore, they are allowed to go into the forest and then kill those animals which have gone beyond the ecological balance. Because if you don't kill, naturally people will say there are so many other things which have uh, because of their dominance over the other living entities, they may multiply like anything, and that may create a problem to the ecological system of all the existence of all the other living beings. Therefore, then there is an intervention required, and the highest intelligent species among them is human being, and they have to take that call what to do. And that is not like everybody will go and kill. No, the king is empowered to review this matter under the whatever research has happened. Okay, this species is actually too much, and this is creating whatever happens. Then the king is authorized to go and kill that. So the kings will go into the forest and they will kill. Those days there were these lions, tigers, so many elephants, and whatever crocodiles, whatever. But nobody talked about the extinction, right? They were actually hunting at those days. Now you see today, so hunting was allowed then, but everything was in balance because everything was done in a very, under a proper guidance and with proper, restrictions. But today, later in our modern world, we indiscriminately killed. Everybody can do everything. So everybody went and killed, and then many species are becoming distinct. Now there is a lot of people who are activists who have to now, I see so many things. One guy is like that done 30 years of research into, say, one particular species. So he's just filming that thing for 30 years continuously. And then he's finding out, oh, this is going from left to right by 120 meters. This is happening, that he's recording everything, and then how we can protect this species. And then there are many countries are enacting, okay, this is a reserved forest for this animal. See, if you see, this is all but those days there was hunting allowed, but again there was restriction, and people followed those things very meticulously. So like that, the king all has this propensity to fight, and then here's an opportunity for him to fight. And here there's a lot of description given how there are okay, that we will see the next. But here it is talking about the state administration of Maharaja Parīkṣit was so perfect that he was sitting in his capital peacefully, but he got the news that the symptoms of the age of Kali had already infiltrated into the jurisdiction of the state, and he did not like this news. This was the symptom of the age of Kali. So there are saying what are the symptoms? There are 4 symptoms which are there in the age of Kali. One is the illicit connection with the opposite sex, indulgence in meat eating, intoxication, and taking pleasure in gambling. So these 4 things were the symptoms of Kali. And Parīkṣit Maharaj has already started seeing that people in his overall empire, which included the entire globe, many people were getting into these propensities already started happening. And he didn't want to simply sit there and say, okay, what can we do? Not keep having meetings after meetings to keep discussing the matter. He straight away got into action. He started touring the world to go and figure out what is going wrong, and he wanted to control it because he didn't like Kali coming in at this point in time in his rule. Prabhupada is saying, right, a Kshatriya will want to fight just like a sportsman will want to participate in every tournament, right? So that's the fighting spirit. Here also, that ability, the sportsman's thing is what? It's about conquering, right? But we, instead of taking a gun and conquering, here they are taking a particular concept and saying like, I will defeat you in boxing, I will defeat you in karate, I will defeat you in other things like, volleyball also. The idea is I will conquer the other 7 on the other side of the net, right? Or tennis, I will conquer the other guy from the other side of the thing. So it's manifestation of the same guna, but in a different form. Instead of the gun, they use the racket to establish my supremacy over you. That's those kind of things. It's not about killing, it's about establishing one supremacy over the other. So he says, just like a sportsman has this tendency, a Kshatriya has a tendency to control also, which means fight in this case. And he is using that thing to control all the adharmas that are happening. And he wanted to protect those devotees who are still having nice culture in their So there are these things which are coming up, these those who are following the dharmic principles, but those who are following the dharmic principles have to be protected, and therefore it is the responsibility of the king to do that. That's been mentioned in this one. Next one is Maharaja Parīkṣit sat on a chariot drawn by black horses. His flag was marked with the sign of a lion. Being so decorated and surrounded by charioteers, cavalry, elephant, and infantry soldiers, he left the capital to conquer in all directions. So here Prabhupada is talking about contrasting how his grandfather Arjuna's horse, chariot, everything was, and how Parīkṣit Maharaj's thing was. So he said Arjuna's horse was white, while Parīkṣit's horse was dark, and the flag here is lion, the flag there is Hanuman. No, those kind of things he's saying, and he's also saying, you see this sign of this big chariot with the black horses, very powerful. Those horses are not those puny what we see on the road, right? Very nice, beautiful, very handsome, strong horses, and then the king on top of it, and then the cavalry with all these elephants. Prabhupada is just you can imagine, right? All these wonderful, powerful men on those horses, and the elephants, nicely, beautifully dressed with all the, the traditional, the cultural outfits and all that. The infantry soldiers just coming around. He says, even in this, there is so much of grandness. Prabhupada is talking about that. He's saying about the aesthetics of, even in that war or whatever, there's so beautiful aesthetics is there, the fine nuances of culture, these fine nuances of appreciating the greatness in, even in the small things, it's a big thing in one sense. So Prabhupada is actually appreciating that in this verse. Then Maharaja Parīkṣit then conquered all parts of the earthly planets. Bhadras, Sava, Ketumala, Bharata, the Northern Kuru, Kim Purusha, etc., and extracted tributes from their respective rulers. So now, as part of this journey to conquer, he's talking about actually there are 7 different continents. Even today we talk about the 7 great continents, right? So it is being mentioned here. These are different tracts of land. Some are being mentioned as that which is north of Himalayas. We can see that north of Himalayas, Europe is there. Then the Soviet Union, the China, all of these things are there north of Himalayas. Those tracts of land were also under the control of Parīkṣit. That is mentioned here. Of course, he's not mentioned specifically these countries or thing, but he's talking about there are the 7 continents and then these so many seas in between, and how he's right. The Earth planet is divided into 7 dvipas by 7 oceans, and the central dvipa called Jambudvipa. In fact, when some of us, right, when you are doing Sankalpa and all of these things, they will say Jambudvipe, Bharata Varshe, Bharadakante, like that. All these things we specify. That means this place is actually the central place in that sense. In India, this is there, Jambudvipe, like that. So it is mentioned. So there in this, the 7 continents and the different things are there. And Prabhupada is actually talking about, the races that are there. He's saying in some of the races, I think Ketumala, the women were so beautiful. He's saying, I don't know which part of it is it Europe or America or which portion is talking. I don't know, or whether eastern side, western side. But he's saying. And Ketumala is also described as one of the above Varshas. It is said that in Ketumala Varsha, women are the most beautiful. This Varsha was conquered by Arjuna also. A description of this part of the world is available in Mahabharata, Shobha 28:6. So for each of this, Prabhupada is actually referring to Mahabharata. Then there is somewhere else for Bharata Varsha is referring to Bhishma Parva chapter 9 and 10. Where he's saying this part of the world is one of the 9 Varshas of the Jambudvipa. A description of Bharata Varsha is given in the Mahabharata. In the center of Jambudvipa is Leelavrita Varsha, and the south of Leelavrita Varsha is Hari Varsha. The description of these Varshas is given in the Mahabharata, Sabha Parva 28, 7 and 8. Like that it is saying. And there also it is mentioned, he is quoting one particular shloka, and then he's saying it is mentioned here that the women in both these varshas are beautiful, and some of them are equal to the apsaras or heavenly women. And then Uttaraku. According to Vedic geography, the northernmost portion of Jambudvipa is called Uttaraku Varsha. It is surrounded by the salt water ocean from three sides and divided by Shringavan mountain from the Himalaya Varsha. So you can see that. Kim Purusha Varsha, that is the other one. See, it is stated to be situated north of the great Himalaya mountain, which is 80,000 miles in length and height, and which covers 16,000 miles in width. These parts of the world were also conquered by Arjuna. So that means these parts of this all these continents were all already conquered by Arjuna, the Pandavas, and then handed over to the next generation, Parīkṣit Maharaj. And Parīkṣit Maharaj is not simply sitting over here and only just accepting whatever those guys are doing. He is personally visiting and checking whether they are all ruling as per the scriptural injunction, and if not, he is challenging them to war, and then he is bringing them under his control again and establishing the principles of dharma in that particular tract of land. That we are seeing here. 857. Now we are in the 13th to 15th verse. Wherever the king visited, he constantly heard the glories of his great forefathers, who were all devotees of the Lord, and also of the glorious act of Lord Krishna. He also heard how he himself had been protected by the Lord from the powerful heat of the weapon of Ashwatthama. People also mentioned the great affection between the descendant of Vrishni and Pritha due to the latter's great devotion to Lord Kesava. The king, being very pleased with the singers of such glories, opened his eyes in great satisfaction. Out of magnitude, he was pleased to award them very valuable necklaces of clothes. This is another beautiful verse where, see, he is visiting different parts. See, we are also seeing, right, like if our prime minister is going, let's say he's come to Karnataka or anywhere, then, the chief minister receives him very nicely. Then there is a nice cultural program which is organized. And in that cultural programs, all the great traditions of that culture, like, so if you go to Kerala, then the Kathakali or whatever, but, Tamil Nadu, then the Bharatanatyam, like this, we have different cultures are there. And through those cultures, they depict some songs, they enact this one, and they glorify, they highlight their whatever like that. But here, very beautifully, it is mentioned here that supreme ruler is coming, and then there is this cultural things, and there in those days, including this dance and all that is there, and there is also this nice invocation of talking about the glories of the Lord here. That is the most important thing. And they are all talking about the glories of the grandfathers of the king, who are actually great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and their their leelas with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, highlighting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how God protected them in different ways, and how mutually how they both interacted, the Lord and either any of the Pandavas in that particular. So this is all, when he's sitting and listening, he is feeling so grateful. He's thinking of Krishna, oh, such a great personality. And they're reminding, you are also protected by Krishna like this in the womb. So when he's hearing all these things, he's feeling so happy. Like, he's feeling that more and more gratitude towards the Lord is coming in his heart. And he's in that ananda, he's actually having tears. And he's enjoying this entire talk about the Lord. So this is how it has to be. Prabhupada is writing that, we should, today, so many things are there. People immediately put film songs, right? And then everybody dance for the film songs. But the point is, even now you can see many places they do some kind of devotional songs they play, and then they dance to that. We have also seen, right, some of the CMs and PMs are coming, and they put some nice kirtana, some very famous singer. They sing for, like, those days we can see M.S. Subbulakshmi coming and singing for some nice some nice song or Lord Srinivasa or something. That will be there for 5 minutes. Then someone will sing about like something from the Guru Granth Sahib. like this and all is there. We can see these days also, but majority of the things, it is not like that. People immediately have film songs, or they have some kind of dances which have completely prajalpa kind of thing. There's nothing but culture also to be dovetailed in the service of the Lord. That is the point that we should know. And it was happening there, and it was so nice to see such things here. So, and you could appreciate, like, Krishna, how he took part as a friend, as an advisor, as a servant, like, so he was every day like an younger brother to Yudhishthira. He would pray obeisances to Yudhishthira every day. He will serve them like a menial servant, even though he is the supreme personality of God. And all that was also like highlighted during this glorification by these men there, and how the Lord became their servant, how Krishna was a humble charioteer for Arjuna, and how he protected them being in that position. So these are all, he brings our, things about the various angles of Lord Krishna, how Suvritam Sarva Bhutanam, how he is the most benefiting well-wisher of the entire universe, of every living entity, particularly in relation to their family. They are being talking, and then hearing all these things, Parīkṣit Maharaj is overwhelmed, and then he gave them all nice charity. Here he's saying, like, no, he gave them enough charity, because it's like, all this charity, it's like, the waters actually go up, and from the land, the water go up as rain, and then they come back as rain, right? Water go up to the clouds as vapor, and the same water comes back as rain to us. And it is coming in like abundance, right? So much water is coming as rain. Like this, he's saying, the ruler collects taxes from the public, and there is so much of taxes he collects. It is not for he just keeps them for his enjoyment. He says he actually gives them to the people through so various danas. He sumptuously he gives that everybody is fully satisfied. He says how to rule the country is, you collect the taxes and use it fully for the people of that country, and people are all fully satisfied. And he says nobody will revolt against your government. That's a nice thing of how to rule, right? And how to keep your power with you. Today, so-called democracy, people are not able to sustain power even there was one prime minister in one country who was ruling for 45 days. You see, this is the condition in Kali Yuga. But the fact is, if you are really intending to rule in a nice way, it is after all people's money. You take the taxes and spend it nicely for the people, and it is not for your purse that you do. Like this fellow do so much of correction in these so many 3 years or 5 years, I will make all the money and put it inside my bank account. Then you are thrown out. But if you are actually working for the people, then you will use all the resources nicely in the people's service. That is what is being mentioned. And that way people will never become dissatisfied with you, and you can remain the king forever. And that is how things were happening in those days, he was trying to say that. Let's come to the last verse. I am over 4 minutes. We will finish now. Maharaja Parīkṣit heard that out of his costless mercy, Krishna, Vishnu, who is universally obeyed, renders all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu by accepting posts ranging from chariot driver to president to messenger, friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. When he heard this, Maharaja Parīkṣit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, I think I have covered this verse also in my earlier commentary. So that the reception that he received, there's a lot of message in that, how they handled it, and in that the greatness of Lord Krishna is coming out. So with that, I will finish. From the next verse, it is going into a next section of the thing. So effectively, that will be handled by the next speaker next Saturday. Verse number 17, chapter 16, 17 onwards will be handled in the next verse. So I will conclude here. If there are any questions, any comments, welcome. I'm sorry, I am over time by 5 minutes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranams. Hare Krishna.